Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have Matt Daline.
You're listening to the Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way.
How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
We're good.
Good. Okay, let's go back to, let's get started. And when you were little, did you know you were going to own a flight school?
No, I had no idea I would be owning a flight school. Yeah, when I was little, I was the kid that played with airplanes in the driveway. The little rubber band prop planes, and I was always fascinated with airplanes. I think one of the things that's interesting about kind of my childhood with that is that I always was under the perception that I could not be a pilot because I had glasses. And so it's kind of interesting for me now to look back on that because I was never exposed to aviation. I had an airport 10 minutes from my house, and I easily could have gone and gotten my pilot's license when I was in high school, but I just didn't know about it.
Yep. Yeah, so that's crazy. So what did you go to school for? And then kind of tell us your process of kind of when you grew up, and then what you went to school for, and then how you got into owning a flight school.
Yeah. So, I'll try to keep it high level and quick. I went to Michigan State for computer engineering. My whole background is IT. So I grew up, actually, I was kind of an entrepreneur in as early as the 5th and 6th grade. I started building computers and selling them to insurance agents who were all starting to get computers at the time. And so I started a little business in middle school, and that's how I made some, extra money. And ended up in high school. I worked for Dow Corning as a computer installer. When I went to Michigan State, I worked at the physical plant there. Did a lot of their IT installation. So I actually, all of my background is in IT and computers. Out of college, I went and worked for an IT consulting company, and I was there for, I have to think. I worked for them for about 8 years. That whole thing, the company that I worked for kind of severely downsized in the dot-com bubble burst era of 2001. So Andrew and I, kind of funny, we were just talking about this with one of our instructors yesterday, that back in 2001, we had just purchased our first kind of new house, had our first baby, and both got laid off at the same time by the IT company that we were working for. Huh. So, we're going through COVID right now, and this big, kind of thing with our economy. And for a lot of our young flight instructors, it's the first time they've had to kind of tighten the belt and feel, this kind of thing that's going on. And for us, it's, I think, the third time we've been through that. And so you kind of learn over the years to how to handle those situations. So, like I said, my background's IT. Never thought I'd own a flight school. So that kind of how we got into that, to answer your question, was when I worked for that company, I was running a team at Pharmacy and Upjohn in Kalamazoo, and one of my lady that worked for me there, her husband was a flight instructor. Begged us to go flying with them, and we did, and loved it. And I think 4 months after that flight, I had my private pilot license, and that was in 2000. So
awesome.
So that's kind of how I got into it, and then after that, just kind of fell in love with the industry. And Andrew and I had you'll kind of relate to where this is going, Brad. Andrew and I had visions of owning like an air taxi service. That's what we always had kind of dreamed of doing at some point. And, through the years, we eventually had the opportunity to, in 2011, buy Cross Winds Aviation. So at the time, Andrew was selling real estate. Things were not great at that time with real estate. So we bought the flight school, and Andrew was kind of running it full time instead of doing the real estate thing. And we hired this guy named Brad Zimmer as our first flight instructor.
That's awesome. So you kind of have like a marketing background, which kind of helped you out really kind of jumpstart Crosswinds. That's kind of, I know when you're starting out, I remember you had like the kind of marketing background. I know just a lot of the marketing stuff you were doing just kind of helped you out and just kind of grew Crosswinds a lot. So that's been from what I've seen,
Yeah.
that's been helping a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of skipped a little part of my career there. That after I lost my job with the IT company, I ended up working for a big digital marketing group out of New York. They're based out of New York and Atlanta, 360i. Prior to buying Cross Winds, I think I started working for them in about 2003. So I worked for them for about 8 years. And so I kind of applied all of my IT knowledge to the digital marketing side of things. So more the revenue side of IT. And so, yeah, I learned a ton. I think that's probably one of the biggest, parts of our background that's helped us be successful. And it was a little bit by design. What we did for the first 20 years of our career was we worked for other people that really knew how to run businesses.
Yep.
And we really just soaked it all in. We worked really hard for other people, learning skills from them, how to make commitments, how to make promises to people, how to make big promises to people, have budgets, and run departments in the corporate world. And so then, so I had kind of an IT background, the marketing background from the company that I worked for, and then just, learning from other people about business and how to run businesses before we had the opportunity to run our own business. And I think that's contributed a lot to our success.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I kind of, when you guys started out, that's kind of because I kind of worked at different places and kind of, I mean, you guys kind of full time, but I saw just the different businesses and kind of how it set it up. So actually, since we started Windows Still, I actually kind of mimicked how that was set up. And that's actually kind of how we kind of started, by kind of using what I learned there and then kind of set up our business from there. So that's all
awesome.
kind of turned around and kind of set it up the same exact way. So it's kind of funny. So what kind of advice have you got, like when you started the flight school, or kind of any business you kind of got that what kind of stuck with you along the way?
I think probably the biggest thing for me is to be very clear about where you're going with your business. While that changes over time, it definitely changes a lot over time. We work very hard every quarter at re-specifying our core values,
Mm-hmm.
A 10-year target, our 5-year target, our next quarter targets. And they definitely change significantly as you learn things and try things. But I would say that it's incredibly important, no matter what you do, to specify some vision of the future and where you're taking your business, and believe it from day one. I don't know if you remember this, Brad, but the day that we bought Cross Winds Aviation, we just said we're the best flight school in Michigan. At the time, we had you as a full-time, we had one instructor, we had one plane, and like 2 students. And we just said we're the best flight school in Michigan, even though we hadn't even done anything yet.
Yeah. Hey, that helps out a ton.
Yeah. So I think it's really, specifying a vision and believing that that's who you are every minute of every day. And that's what makes it happen. If you just, because what happens is if you're in that mood and you have that kind of at your core, what we have found happens is you attract a lot of other people that have similar values, and that kind of gets the ball rolling. The more people, because at the end of the day, business is all about coordinating people.
Yep.
And so the more people that you have around you that share your vision, the quicker it's going to happen.
Yep.
And I think that you guys see that. I mean, I think that that's what's contributed to your success is, you clearly have a vision of what you're producing, and you live and breathe it. And that's why it's been happening so well for you. So kudos to you guys, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, we won't say no to that. So awesome. Yeah, that's some pretty good advice. Let's talk about kind of the transition when you kind of, because I know some of the listeners are probably have kind of a part-time job that they're kind of doing, where you had kind of your full-time job, and then you jumped right, like you're like, hey, here's my day, I'm leaving, and I'm just going to go right into Cross Winds full-time. So kind of tell us about that transition from a full-time job to all of a sudden, relying completely on that, because I actually just made that switch last year and doing that same exact thing.
It's very nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you kind of my story about that. I mean, like I said, Andrea was running kind of full time at it, as you know, Brad, and I was, doing my full time job in the corporate world while helping with the flight school. And for me, my corporate job was very stressful as it was. I was working 70-hour weeks at that job. And then I was trying to help with the flight school after that and on the weekends. And honestly, for me, I was actually starting to have health issues with that. It was way too stressful.
Yeah.
And I was seeing my doctor, and he was saying, dude, you have to just do something. You either need to quit your job and do this full time, or stop doing the flight school thing. So it really got to the point for me where it was causing, health issues. And so at that point, Andrew and I just decided, hey, we're young enough. I think that's part of the message here. If you're young enough and you have time to recover, go for it.
Yeah.
Which most of us do. If you have the skills and the drive and the work ethic, you can take risk and recover from it if it doesn't, even if it doesn't go well. And so I think that would be part of my message is, go for it. Don't worry too much. Obviously, you got to feed yourself and your family. Don't do anything stupid. But for us, we were at the point where we felt like if I quit my job and did this full time, we could just barely scrape by, make enough to feed ourselves and pay our mortgage. And so I made the leap.
Yep. Yeah, and it was perfect. It helped. I just remember that first jump. I remember that first week. I just remember so much more got done during that time, mostly because you had a whole lot more time.
Your time was
it made a gigantic difference. I had another 70 hours a week to give to the flight school.
Yep. And I kind of remember that jump too when I did mine. I just remember that I'm like, wait, I had all this time before that I was to be able to do all this stuff. And I was like, holy smokes, I have way more time now. And it's like so much more to do, but awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about how you went from kind of one plane to now you guys have like 3 different locations with multiple planes. So you want to talk about how
so actually, we have 4 locations, 4 total, Howell, and then 3 others, Flint, Pontiac, Oakland County Airport, and Will Run in Ypsilanti. 22 airplanes right now.
Nice.
Across the 4 locations. And what was your question, Brad? How did we
just kind of how you got to that? How you kind of got to that, and because just kind of the scaling you did there. Because you got, I know pretty much. Let's talk about your high school program, because that's really big for you guys. I know that's between that and your college stuff you guys got going on. Tell us kind of about all of it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the high school program. I really think that's so. One of the things, I'll take a step or 2 back. One of the things that we did early on with the flight school is we were. I always think of it as throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
That's basically what we were doing. We got our charter certificate. We were a serious flight training center. Obviously a flight school training anybody that wanted to fly with us. So we're kind of trying a whole bunch of different things in aviation. One of the things in this business is there's a lot of what we call shiny objects.
Yep.
So it's very easy to get distracted with turbine airplanes and charter and jets and this new plane and that new plane. And so we tried a whole bunch of stuff. And then as we started to really work in our high school program, so we started our high school program in, I think, two years after we bought the flight school. So I think it was 2012 or 2013 that all started, which is now pretty big. It covers all of Livingston County and all of Genesee County. So we have about 80 to 90 students every year that we take through that program. What we realized after, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when we really started kind of honing in our business model, we just realized that what we really enjoy is working with youth. Yeah. We're parents. We have a senior in high school, a boy, and then a daughter who's a sophomore in high school. So we're parents, and we love working with kids. So really what we started really working on is what, when you're working in a business, it can be really hard. It's a lot of hours. It's pretty stressful. So you have to start thinking, what is it that gets me up in the morning? What is it that I really enjoy about what I'm doing with my business? And for us, it's when you see, you, Brad, posting on Facebook in a jet, and we're like, we helped you get there.
Yep.
Or what you're doing right now.
Yep.
Or how many dozens and dozens or 100 pilots out there that started in our high school program, and you see them sitting up in the front seat of their regional jet.
Yeah.
That's what does it for us. So being a part of exposing youth to this industry, getting them started, getting them off to the next step. A lot of people, when we say that the turnover is high for instructors, and we keep them for about 1.5 years, everyone's like, oh, that must be terrible. And for us, it's like, no, it's actually exactly what we want. Our whole mission in life is to get people off to the airlines or whatever corporate job they're after, whatever. So I think your question was about growth, right?
Yeah, it's all good. We all get distracted.
Yeah. So I think that, but that's all part of it. I think the key is getting focused on what you love and what you're really good at. And once you figure those things out, the growth just happens because it's a snowball effect. And I think that's one of the things that was told to us when we started the business. Everyone says you got to make sure you are focused on your niche or whatever it is that you're good at. And, when you hear that in the beginning, you're kind of like, it's noise. Like, I don't understand what that means. And then when you kind of figure that out after whatever, we've been doing this 10 years, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yep.
Once you really figure that out, it just takes off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's at the core of what's produced growth for us.
Yeah.
That's
what
awesome.
kind of goals do you guys have for the company going forward? I know earlier you were talking about it's always good to have a plan for the future, or at least seeing the future. What do you want it to look like in the next 5 years for you guys right now?
Yeah, so exactly. That's a great question. 5 years from now, the way we see it, as of right now, we don't really see actually expanding to any additional locations. We kind of like the 4 that we have. They're all within a 40-minute drive from our house. So we can very easily get to all of our locations, and we cover a pretty good geographic area for Southeast Michigan. So really, last semester we entered into a 5-year contract with Eastern Michigan University with their aviation program. So we are now providing the flight training for their program. So really, our vision is to get kind of laser focused on that collegiate program in combination with our high school program. So we're casting a wide net to the whole area, bringing the high school students into this program and getting them through the college program that we now do, and out the other side to the airlines. So, and doing it in a way that's really an evolution in flight training. So what we see, we're not there yet, but what we want to produce is really an elite program. So where students that want to fly with us and go through the, our high school program and then in an EMU program, where it's not like a right to be there. And if I have enough money, I can be there no matter what, where it's more like a privilege. In other words, you're going to work. We're not going to put up with students that don't come prepared to their lessons, that are, throwing their money away because they're not doing their, their part. So really what we want to do is turn this whole program into a more elite program, not elitist, meaning like expensive, actually just the opposite. We want to make it accessible to anybody that is willing to put the work in. We will turn you into an amazing pilot, and help you launch your career. So it's really kind of just cleaning things up. It's making this flight school a really kind of well-oiled, honed-in machine that will, expose a lot of young students to this and produce a lot of very good pilots.
Yeah.
We kind of want the industry, like we want Endeavor and Piedmont and, all the airlines where our students go. We want them to be saying, boy, we got any pilot we get from Cross Winds and EMU, they're the best.
That's awesome.
So that's the goal. We want them to be saying that.
That's awesome. So you guys don't just do training, you guys do aircraft rental too. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Like, how's that part work? Like, some people don't know that you can actually rent an airplane.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is most of our students. So aside from our high school program and our career-oriented program, we of course will train anybody. If you're a middle-aged person and you want to learn how to fly and go fly to Mackinac Island for the day, you can absolutely do that with us. So yeah, most people that are pilots, it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to buy your own plane. So yeah, we do rent our aircraft. What that does is you're basically spreading the very high fixed costs of airplanes over a lot of hours. And so ultimately, when you pay us an hourly rate, while it seems like it's high, if you actually look at the cost of ownership and owning your own plane, it's actually pretty low. And that's because we're spreading those costs out over a lot of hours per month. So yeah, most of our students will just, learn like in our Diamond DA-20, the 2-seater, then they'll get checked out in the DA-40 and the 172, the 4-seat airplanes. Some of them will continue on to their instrument rating. Some don't. But yeah, after you get your license with us, you can just rent our planes and, go do day trips. We do allow overnight rentals of our planes. The reality is most people won't take them for much more than a day or two because, if you're going somewhere for a longer trip, usually you're either driving or taking the airlines. So yeah, a lot of our students will just rent and do day trips.
Awesome. So let's say somebody that's not familiar with aviation, like how would let's talk about like the private pilot's license. What actually is kind of like requirements for like a private pilot?
Well, the base requirements are 40 hours. This is actually a really good question that I know you'll appreciate, Brad. That, we get a lot of calls that say, okay, after 40 hours, I get my license, right?
Yep.
It's like, well, no, that is the FAA minimum.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you're ready to fly planes by yourself at 40 hours and have a license. So yeah, the FAA minimum for a private is 40 hours. There's a lot of sub requirements in there for solo time, instrument time, nighttime. So there's a lot of sub requirements within that 40, but the basic requirement is 40. Age, you can solo at 16 and you can get your license at 17. So that's where our high school students, a lot of them are soloing at 16 and getting their license at 17, which is amazing. And so those are the basic requirements, but the real requirement is proficiency. You have to be proficient at the knowledge that's required to pass the written test and the oral exam. And you have to be proficient at the skills in the aircraft that you need to demonstrate as part of your check ride, that you can demonstrate that you're actually a safe pilot. So I would say that's the real requirement is proficiency. And however many hours it takes to get there is what it takes. We have a curriculum that's designed to, if you study and work hard, it's designed to keep that hour amount as low as possible. Yep. So that it doesn't cost more than it needs to. But again, that's really 100% dependent on, how much students study.
Yep, for sure.
As I know you're familiar with, Brad.
Yep. Hey, our listeners don't have a clue. So some of them know aviation, some of them don't. Some of them, we do have a lot of business owners that kind of listening. So you never know, kind of the ones that might want to come check you guys out. So how can we get a hold of you and kind of where can people follow you at?
So the best way is our website, crosswindsaviation.com. That's Crosswinds with an S. There is a Cross Wind Aviation out there. I think it's in Montana or something. We get a call from them every once in a while. crosswindsaviation.com. Facebook. We have a Facebook page. It's just, I think it's actually / Crosswinds Aviation on Facebook.
Crosswinds
you
Aviation,
can easily find us in the search.
Yep.
So those are the two main outlets. Call us 517-552-1101. If anybody calls us please leave a voicemail if we don't answer. We do actually return voicemails.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the biggest things with when you guys started. I just remember you're like, we're going to answer the phone and we're going to respond back to everybody that leaves a voicemail, because that's one of the biggest things that, like, I know that too, because I've seen that in other aviation industries. Like, no one, like, they don't answer, just general business things, just to call somebody back. And that's like one of the biggest things you guys made sure that everybody gets taken care of. That's so awesome.
Yeah. You probably remember, Brad, I'd get upset if I didn't call someone back within a day.
Yep. Hey, we're the same boat over here. We don't, if it's 20 minutes, we're like, we got to call. Someone else has to call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a key thing in business. It's amazing how many people call us and we call them back. Like, you're the first flight school that called us back. And I've been trying for days, weeks. So
So
definitely
perfect.
do that.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone before we go?
No, I think dream big. You know what I mean? We live in a country where kind of anything's possible. So I think that's probably the last thing I would say is, dream big. Yeah. Don't think too small, dream big, work hard. You can pretty much make within physical realities, anything happen that you put your mind to. So I think that's probably what I'd leave you with.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Are these working?
All right.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. What do we got to point at? Hey, I think there's a subscription button. Like,
it might be there.
It might be right there too.
Somewhere.
Find
it. It's red.
Yeah. And it's blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess.
I wonder if they can hear us.
Yeah, I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review for listening to on Apple. That'd be cool.
5 stars, guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take 4 stars.
I mean, Taylor, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
I don't think this is working.
This is not working.